The unusual career of Sculptress Dorothea von Philipsborn. In 2009, the Silesian Museum of Görlitz received sculptures from the estate of the artist Dorothea von Philipsborn, along with several pieces of old luggage. The suitcases were crammed with documents, letters and photographs, giving proof of an eventful life. Leafing through the old photo albums reveals picture after picture of the Silesian village of Strelitz, 35 kilometers from the voivodeship capital city of Wrocław. The von Philipsborn family owned an estate there, and as stated on her birth certificate, Dorothea was born on the property May 20th, 1894, surrounded by valuable pieces of art and furniture. "My parents were very interested in art and open to everything beautiful," she later reported. Dorothea was introduced to art at an early age. In 1908, she took a trip to Italy, the activities of which her governess kept in a diary. Inspired by the works she saw, the 14-year-old Dorothea was determined to become a sculptress. In the private studio of Breslau sculptor Paul Schulz, she was soon regarded by him as a highly talented student. The same was said of her by Peter Poppelmann in Dresden. Shortly thereafter, the First World War broke out. Dorothea can be seen on the right-hand side. She was only 20 years old at the time and volunteered as a helper for the Red Cross. A short time later, her parents died and left her the estate. Although she now had to handle many new tasks at the family home, she set up a studio in Strelitz for her artistic work. Among other pieces of art in this studio, Dorothea created Wieland the blacksmith. This larger-than-life figure made of Silesian granite was intended as a memorial commemorating the division of Upper Silesia. It was unveiled with great pomp in the city of then Schweidnitz in 1922. The mythical hero with paralyzed legs was meant to symbolize the weakened industrial area. She was then commissioned by the district of Schweidnitz to sculpt imposing war memorials. While Philipsborn always gave her sculptures a lot of expression, she did not seek to imitate the latest expressive art trends of her time. Instead, her true passion was for another subject, the depiction of nudes of boys and girls. Right up until her late work, she was always looking for new variations and poses to capture the magic of youth and the emotional mood of her models. Dorothea also sculpted numerous portrait busts. Over the years, their designs became more and more vivid. Dorothea von Philipsborn, in the front on the left, chose her models from amongst her large crowd of guests to the estate, which included musicians and young poets. Social gatherings with concerts and readings gave the idyllic place at times the flair of a court of the muses. The painter Eva Maria Falk, who was born in Riga, was always present. She had lived on the Strelitz estate since the early 1920s. Dorothea von Philipsborn's works often sparked conversations, as in the case of the idealistic nude sculpture in the style of Georg Kolber and Fritz Klimsch, erected in Strelitz Park around 1935. Today, it is located in the museum in Świdnica. In her commissioned sculpture of St. Barbara, Philipsborn also idealized the saint as a timeless, youthful beauty. The figure was erected in 1936 near the artillery barracks in Schweidnitz, but likely was not in line with the ideals of the new Nazi rulers. Up until 1944, her works attracted a lot of attention among private collectors and museums through exhibitions in Berlin, Silesia, the Rhineland, and southern Germany. As the war drew closer to Silesia, the tranquil life of the Strelitz estate came to an end. On August 18, 1946, the artist had to leave her property forever. The sculpture of two women bent in grief expresses the suffering of the people at that time. In Trebendorf in Upper Lusatia, von Philipsborn tried to resume her work under the most challenging conditions. She sculpted mostly in timber during this time. Dorothea received her first commission from the neighbouring village of Schleifer in 1947. To this day, the wooden cross, completed a year later, adorns the Protestant parish church. The artist had a portion of the fee paid to her in kind. The small household, which included her painter friend Eva Maria Falk, a former housekeeper Elisabeth Hein, and the cook Gertrude Carmen, was provided for in a makeshift way. The life of these four women improved in 1953 when they moved into a small house in the town of Weißwasser. In 1952, the artist became a member of the newly founded Association of Visual Arts of the German Democratic Republic. In the following years, she again succeeded in selling her nudes and established herself in the newly developing art scene of the GDR. Among her numerous commissions of the 1950s and 1960s was the bronze figure Die Käse, the Pert One. The sculpture was installed in Weißwasser in 1962 and is still there today. The artwork was meant to enhance new residential areas and buildings. Philipsborn's animal figures are still very popular, especially Group of Goats and Girl with Dog at the Hoyerswerda Zoo. Although the sculptor herself was usually critical of her work, public reception of it was always positive. The apex of this second, hard-fought career was the award of the Karl Blechen Prize for Art and Literature in Cottbus in 1964. A few years later, Dorothea von Philipsborn lost her creative powers through illness. Today, a grave of honor in Weißwasser commemorates the artist, who died in 1971, and the community of fate of the four women.